Hi everyone, welcome back to Mr. K's Simplified Maths. Today, we're going to unravel the technique of completing the square. This method is super useful for solving quadratic equations and understanding the properties of parabolas. By the end of this video, you'll be able to solve any quadratic equation using this technique. 1. What does it mean to complete the square? Take a look at the following expansions of perfect squares. See if you can spot a pattern between the x coefficients and the constant terms. Have you noticed it yet? Did you observe that half of the x coefficient squared equals constant term? The process of converting a quadratic trinomial into a perfect square is called completing the square. So, to complete the square, the constant term must be the square of half the x coefficient. 2. What is a quadratic equation? Let's quickly review what a quadratic equation is. A quadratic equation is any equation that can be expressed in the form of ax squared plus bx plus c equals 0, where a is not 0. Now, a quadratic equation is called monic if a equals 1 and non-monic if a is not 1. This distinction is important because we approach these equations slightly differently when completing the square. There are several methods to solve quadratic equations. 1 by factoring, 2 by using the quadratic formula, 3 by completing the square. We're focusing on the third technique today. Now, let's get started with the process. 3. Steps to complete the square. Example 1. Solve to x squared plus 12 by minus 14 equals 0 by completing the square. Step 1. Make sure the equation is monic in the standard form. If it is not monic, divide the entire equation by the coefficient of x squared, which is 2 for this example. Step 2. Move the constant term to the other side. Step 3. Find the value to complete the square. Take the coefficient of x, which is 6, divide it by 2 to get 3. And then square it to get 9. Step 4. Add the value found to both sides of the equation. Step 5. Factorize the left-hand side to complete the square. I've left a link in the description below for those who need a refresher on how to factorize quadratic trinomials. However, after a few more examples, you'll notice a pattern. The number inside the brackets after factoring will always be half of the x coefficient. Step 6. Solve for x. Take the square root of both sides. Then, remove 3. So, we have 2 solutions, x equals 1 or negative 7. Great. Let's apply the same method to solve some more harder problems. For further examples, example 2, solve x squared minus 5x plus 6 equals 0 by completing the square. This equation is already monic. First, move 6 to the other side. Next, find the value to complete the square. Take half of the x coefficient, square it, and add it to both sides. Then, complete the square. Did you notice that the number inside the brackets after factoring is always half of the x coefficient? Now, solve for x. Which simplifies to 3 or 2? Example 3. Solve for x squared 9 equals 15x by completing the square. Divide both sides by 4 to make it monic. Rearrange the terms. Note that the equation can first be rearranged into the standard form and then converted into monic form. Add the value to complete the square. Now, complete the square. Then, solve for x. So, the solutions are found. Which can be written as a single fraction? Today, we learned how to solve quadratic equations by completing the square. Here are the key steps to remember. 1. Start with the standard form. 2. Convert the equation into monic form. 3. Move the constant term to the other side. 4. Find the value needed to complete the square and add it. 5. Complete the square by factoring. 6. Solve for x. Be sure to practice this method on different quadratic equations to master it. If you enjoyed this video, give it a thumbs up, subscribe for more maths content, and leave a comment below if you have any question or need further clarification. Thanks for watching and see you next time.